Hello and welcome to another 5-minute video. Today we're going to be talking about dry fabrics and particularly sheet flutter. So what is sheet flutter? Sheet flutter, also known as flapping edges, and what that means is that the edges of the paper do tend to sort of flap and wobble around, and when that happens, if it flaps too radically, then you'll get a edge crack and then it will tear straight across the sheet and you've got a sheet break. So how does that come around? Okay, this you'll recognise as a typical dry system. So we've got two drying cylinders here, we've got the dry fabric turn roll, and here we've got the sheet. Dry fabrics have a certain permeability, and there is a tendency to start off at the wet end with very permeable dry fabrics to enable the water vapour to escape through the fabric as it's being held onto the cylinder. Very large, strong fibres. But as we move, that potentially could mark the sheet, but as we move towards the drier section, the dry end section, then we tend to reduce the permeability of the sheets, hold it closer onto the drying cylinder. We don't need the permeability because there's not a lot of water left to evaporate, and you'll get less marking of the sheet. So that's why permeability does tend to vary. But the problem is, as you can see here, as the drying cylinder is turning that way, the paper's coming out, the dry fabric is leaving the paper. So we're creating a void there, and air has to go in and fill that void. When the air goes in and fills that void, it will hit the surface of the paper and then it will spread out along the surface of the paper, as I'll illustrate in a moment. At the other side, we have what we call a compression wedge. As the dry fabric and the paper come together, then the air is squashed out of the wedge there and passes through the dry fabric. Now, this is what happens when the air passes through the dry fabric. It hits the paper and then it moves that way and it moves that way. Little illustration for you with a little bit of paper. If you imagine that this is the centre of the sheet and this is the edge, when air moves over it, flapping edge effect. So this is caused because the dry fabric is permeable enough to allow enough air to go through in order to cause that. So sometimes if you do have a flapping edge problem, one way of solving it is to reduce the permeability of your dry fabric. Okay, so a quick summary, just 4 points to really talk about. We normally have high permeability dry fabrics at the wet end, low permeability towards the dry end. It's the higher permeability, it's good for water evaporation, but it increases the chance of edge flapping. Okay, well, thank you for listening to this video, and I look forward to seeing you on any of this social media. Thank you.